Yeah, he did. All right, let's get out to the Corona hotline. We will say hi to a friend of the show, Jurko's former teammate, Sean Payton, the head coach of the Saints, joins Carmen and Jurko now on ESPN 1000 and the ESPN Chicago app. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you?
We're doing very well. What did you make of the Super Bowl? I mean, when you watch a team from your division that you played 3 times, you beat the snot out of them a couple times. They beat you guys in the playoff game. Like, what is it like watching that team then in the Super Bowl?
Well, look, it's the first emotion really is you're always just jealous because you want to be playing in that game, and I would say this: I think historically, if you see a team that gets to the Super Bowl and they've won 3 road games, that's a dangerous team. You know, a wild card team, and we've seen it before. We've seen it with the old Raiders squad. We've seen it with the Ravens in 2000. We've seen it with the Giants, the Steelers, because something happens during that stretch. I mean, obviously, they played exceptionally well after their bye, didn't lose a game, and they go on the road week 1 in the playoffs, beat Washington. They come here in the divisional round and beat us, and then, beat Green Bay. There's a process in that, man. You believe that you can beat anyone at that point. You know, the confidence, and people always talk about confidence, and it's born out of, demonstrated achievement. And I think that team, the last half of the season, was clearly playing their best football, and it was an impressive game to watch. Everyone, when you're watching that game, wants to see a close game, but I thought defensively, how they played, their speed, it showed up.
Is Tom Brady kind of a marvel at this age, what he's doing? Especially when you think about your quarterback.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unprecedented. You're not used to. First off, there's 2 elements: playing at his level, at his age, and then the second element that I mean, however many Super Bowls he's won and played in 10, won 7. I mean, that's the thing that's truly unbelievable. And then just to see, the difference in one player coming to an organization and kind of instilling that, the work ethic and all the things that come with winning. It's difficult to win in this league. And then every team, I don't care what team you are, you go through some peaks and valleys during the course of the season. It's too long, and certainly they were one of those teams, and they weathered that. And like I said, they had one of the later buys, and then after that point, you saw them playing fantastic football, and so yeah, I think it's nothing. We've never seen anything like it really in football.
I felt for my guy Andy Reid just a smidge. They just couldn't gain traction at any point. You've been in situations you go in at halftime and you're down. How do you find a way to right the ship?
Yeah, look, the number one thing is halftime itself. I mean, it's an ongoing process each series. You're getting the pictures, you're getting the computer shots, you're on the headsets, you're talking. And so your adjustments in what you're discussing is taking place series by series. Halftime, really, and John, you know this, it's 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's 8 minutes, and you get in there. Now, the Super Bowl, it's 35 minutes. But the normal halftime, you're in, you take a pee, you quick get together, and you grab something, and you're out. I mean, it's like a pit stop. But I think that, look, that first half, there was a few plays, and it was much closer at the break. I mean, there was a few big pivotal plays in the first half, and then I felt like in the second half there was nothing at that point. There's another score, and all of a sudden now you're playing into the hands of the pass rush. Obviously, there's some injuries for Kansas City, and anytime you're getting pressure with 4, that's going to be a challenge for everyone. And so, I mean, when you get in one of those games, and each one of them is a little different, that one really got lopsided in the second half. Each game can be a little different. And, sometimes in our playoff game, we come out, I think it's tied at the half. We score to go up 7. We've got the ball to go up another either 10 or 14, convert a third down, but we have a fumble there. The turnovers really really hurt us in our playoff game.
Was that the backbreaker for you guys, Coach? That Jared Cook fumble? Was that like?
Well, look, it's hard to point to one play, but there's a momentum element to any game. We just had we played. I thought we played very well defensively, but not nearly well enough offensively, and that was a turning point you could turn to with us cross the 50, moving the ball, and it was a great play. It was a great play by them. Winfield, his father was an expert at separating the ball up in Minnesota. You know, he did that at a high level, and his son had a fantastic rookie year. I mean, he played well all year.
Yeah, he really did. Sean Payton's our guest. It's Carmen and Jurko on ESPN 1000 and the ESPN Chicago app. We played some sound of you from last week, Coach. It might have been NFL Network. I don't know exactly where it was, but you were talking about the scouting process of Mahomes. It was a little painful for us in Chicago to hear. You had said, and maybe this isn't verbatim, but that you walked away, you left Texas Tech thinking that's the best college quarterback we've ever scouted. What was it when, if you could take us back to the spring of 2017, what was it like? What were you seeing that made you, sort of have that stance on Mahomes back then?
Yeah, number one, it all starts, you have to spend the time first on the film. In other words, you're watching a lot of film. He's in an offense that's throwing the ball a lot. One of the challenges sometimes in these spread offenses in college, is it the offense or is it the player? Generally speaking, you're trying to look at the plays he's having to make. He's under duress some, but on film you see the unique ability for him to move and play outside the pocket, but throw without a perfect platform. I mean, just the arm talent on film you saw time and time again. There were some glimpses that looked like, a young Brett Favre when you watched him throw. And yet you have a film exposure without meeting him. And then, you have a chance at the combine. You go through that whole process. And then for us, it was, more of a private workout. And, we send a whole installation, for instance. We emailed that the night before, and there was, I think, 3 of us that went down and have a chance to meet in the morning. And then we kind of go through that installation, if you will, like a test, and see how much he digested, how much he picked up. And that was extremely impressive. I mean, he was fantastic in the room, on the board, going through everything. And then after that, we went out onto the field and basically had a workout live on the field, just watching him throw to receivers and targets and moving. And so it's the combination of all those things that I just remember leaving there feeling like, man, let's make sure we get out of town and let's try and make sure no one knows we were here for the day.
That's hard though, right?
It's hard to do. And so our league's a small league, really, when you look at just 32 teams, and especially now and social media and everything else. But I know how we felt leaving there. And the interesting part of that trip is we flew from Lubbock into Knoxville, and that evening had dinner. And then we're going to do the same thing the next day with a handful of University of Tennessee players. I think there were 9 that we had dinner with. And in the following day, we had more coaches that joined us. Tennessee had, I think, 7 guys drafted in that class, if I'm not mistaken, 6 or 7. And, a defensive end that went to Philly in the first round, a linebacker, a defensive back, and a running back. And our running back coach wasn't there. So I'm working out the running back. It's Alvin Kamara. And, man, I finished that day, and I'm like, I am on a roll. Like, let's sneak out of this place, because this was a private workout.
Well, you got that one. I mean, let me ask you this, Coach. Because you sort of alluded to this too last week when you were talking about it. Like, Andy, of course, goes up, and you said you kind of knew what they were doing. They leap you. I mean, if that doesn't happen, and you're on the clock at 11,
if that doesn't happen,
are you taking
we're
it?
Literally, when it happens, we know that they're drafting Mahomes. But prior to that happening, the first round's 10 minutes per, I think, team. And
right.
And so we've got Lattimore and Mahomes on our grease board, and we're just basically sweating out 9. In other words, as soon as 9's drafted, if one of those 2's left, then you feel like, man, we've got a guy inside the grade.
Right.
I can't recall who selected 9.
I don't even remember either. Would you have taken Mahomes, you think? I mean, it's hard to answer now, right?
No. We were beginning the discussion, and in all seriousness with it, there's 2 elements. There's the element of Lattimore, you see, is going to contribute right away. You see as a first-year starter. Mahomes, is going to come in behind Drew, and so that discussion literally began when we were going back and forth between the players.
And 9 was Cincinnati Bengals.
John Ross went 9th. Yep.
Ross goes, we begin the discussion, and literally 30 seconds in, there's been a trade. And the Chiefs come to 10, and essentially the pick is made. So it's a great question. And look, Mickey and I have talked before. We obviously had grades on both of these players, and neither we thought might be there. We thought Mahomes might be there at 11. We didn't think Lattimore would be there at 11. Wow. And it's the draft, so nothing surprises you. But that was interesting how that all unfolded. Fortunately, we were able to get a great player there with Lattimore. We got Ramczyk at, I think, 30. That was a big draft for us because it was, we injected a lot of young players. Marcus Williams came at 211. Kamara came in the 3rd round. Trey Hendrickson came at the end of the 3rd round. I mean, so much time is spent on the 1st round, and generally speaking, the drafts that are uniquely different are filled with a lot of guys that are selected in the later part of the draft.
Do you know what your quarterback is going to do now? I mean, do you know if Drew is going to retire? I think everybody sort of assumes that, but do you have an answer about Drew's future at this point?
Yeah, I mean, look, number one, I wouldn't speak for Drew, and we stay in touch. And in fact, we didn't just yesterday. I think we were texting. He's smart. He's going to take some time with his family. I think we'll hear something. I'm sure sooner rather than later. And I don't have a strong gut one way or another. I think he's always been very methodical. He'll think through everything and then make the decision. I mean, last year he considered it, and I recall the conversations we had then. But I think we'll know something sooner than later.
If he retires, will Jameis be your quarterback next year?
Well, he's not under contract. He's a free agent. Mm-hmm. And so right now, Taysom is under contract. He's someone that will obviously have an opportunity to compete for the job. And then, Jameis is someone that we have an interest in. That year that we had with him last year was a great opportunity for, I think, both Jameis and us for him to really get a chance to field this program or understand what it's like in the offense. He was fantastic last year for us, as was Taysom. I mean, the two of those guys, we had a good room that, you never take it for granted, but 2 years in a row then, 2 years ago we lost Drew for 5 weeks. Teddy Bridgewater came in and played really well. We were able to win those 5 games. And then this year, Drew was out for 4 games. Taysom stepped up, and we were able to win 3 of those 4. And so you don't know when and if an injury is going to happen, but your goal, obviously, at any position, but especially at that position, is that you can continue and have a chance to win and not be hamstrung if that happens.
How messed up was Drew? I mean, how bad was he? He came back in, missed those games. But boy,
he's like 10 broken ribs. Yeah, it's unfathomable.
It's hard to believe they heal in 4 weeks too.
Really?
Yeah. Look, he's as tough a player as I've ever been around, and I knew it was serious. We were in the middle of that 49er game, and we came in after the half. We came back out on the field, and he was throwing a second, and he turned to me, and I was waiting. He was going to say something to me. I thought that was important, and he turned to me and said, "Coach, I can't play the second half." And that's the first time. I thought I wasn't paying attention that he was hurting or even knew of the injury at that very moment. It happened right at the end of the second quarter, and so I knew right away it was significant. And it needed time. And when you play at that position, anytime you're throwing, you're in that exposed position, and then anytime you're torquing your body, anybody who's just throwing a baseball or any type of ball, there's a lot that goes on with that movement. And so for that to tug and hurt, I'm sure, he missed the better part of a month, but he was still recovering and still fighting through some of those things. And listen, I've watched him over the years, and he's been blessed really relative to his health. When you look at his 20-year career and then you start adding up the games, he's been real fortunate, but a lot of that has to do with how he prepares, how he lifts, everything to the T, the diet, the nutrition, the sleep, the hydration. It's different now. And when you see a guy like Drew or Brady or some of these guys, it wasn't too long ago these guys had a cigarette at halftime.
Jurko always jokes about that. That's why they're playing into their 40s now. There's no doubt.
Yeah, it's different. It's different, and that's just change as you begin to find out other things that can help prolong your career and extend it. And it's pretty impressive when you're around someone like that.
A couple more minutes with Sean Payton. In the playoff game where you beat our beloved Bears, the Bears offense, like most of the season, unfortunately, and certainly in that game, the offense was rather punchless, but there was a great play early on. I know you're going to remember it. And unfortunately, Javon Wims just couldn't hold on to a beautiful play design and a beautiful pass from Trubisky. It sure looked like you guys busted out that same play the next week and hit it with Jameis Winston. Is that something you'd had? Did Nagy take it from you? Did you see it and say, I'm stealing that play and going to use it next week? How did that come together?
We literally, I'd seen the play, obviously, that they had run, and I just took a pencil and I erased Matt Nagy, and then I put my name at the top and turned it in, just like Jurko you do with a paper at Easter.
That's right.
And honestly, it was. I'd never seen it before, and I remember seeing the play live because when Chicago broke the huddle, Trubisky was right in front of me, on our sideline, and he wasn't just. You're getting a wildcat play, but generally speaking, you're close to the line of scrimmage, and Mitch was about 3 yards deeper than normal, and there was the timing, the snap, the motion, the handoff, and then back to the quarterback. And at that moment, you're like, and
you're cooked.
Honestly, it was a magnificent throw.
Great, it was.
Yes,
his throw was magnificent. You're first off, you're coming in towards the formation. You're getting a pitch, and you got to flip your shoulders. And his throw was spot on, and we were fortunate. And so I'm watching the tape on both sides of the ball the day after the game, and as you're getting ready to play a game, you're looking at opponent, Tampa Bay, but you're also scouring the league for who did what on third down last week, who scored last week. Did the Rams have a play versus Seattle? You're looking for
anything,
new thoughts or ideas. Yeah, and so that one was just hit the copy here.
Wow.
And we started with the idea that maybe we just flip the whole thing around and go the same exact play, but have it go the other direction. And we said, no, let's just literally show our players this picture. But the difference was we were going to bring Jameis in, and as a changeup, he was going to be the quarterback. Now, that's kind of hard. Let's just say, John, you're playing defensive tackle, maybe on a rotation, but you've got to be ready for this one blitz or this one front and stunt. Like, for the quarterback, for him, I'm like, Jameis, I don't know when it's going to happen, but, man, I'm going to call Florida State. 12 personnel, and you need to be ready. And so I remember calling it, and it was in a normal flow of the game, and Jameis was probably 5 yards behind me to my right, and I just see him running onto the field as he's putting his helmet over his ears, and he already knows the play, so he's going to be able to, I've got no way to talk to him at that moment because Drew's got the green dot. And it was impressive that he was able to literally, come out of the dugout and throw one fastball for a strikeout.
Yeah. Florida State 12
That's not
personnel.
easy to do.
That's the play. Florida State 12 personnel. I love it. Can you bust that out again, or is that one like
you got to wait a little bit?
You got to wait a while before you can use that again.
Let the film cycle.
You got to wait a while. And look, I footnoted. I used my footnotes correctly. The next day, I text Matt. And I said, I appreciate that play. Everyone got their credit. Like there wasn't awesome. That was zero to do with us, and that was Chicago's design.
That is absolutely awesome, Coach. We've taken up a lot of your time.
Yes,
we appreciate it as always. Have a great offseason. Be well. We'll bug you, I'm sure, sometime down the line.
One piece of
here.
advice: the Fairgrounds has the Risen Star this weekend. Midnight Bourbon is the horse you should play.
There you go. That's from Jurko.
Midnight Bourbon down here in New Orleans.
In New Orleans, yes, the Fairgrounds.
There's your play for the weekend. Okay.
Midnight Bourbon. I'm going to look it up right now.
Thanks, Coach. We appreciate the time as always.
All right, guys. Good talking to you.
All right, we'll talk to you later. There you go. That was pretty fabulous stuff about that play. And I stole it, and I texted Matt the next day. Thanks a lot. Florida State 12 personnel. There's your play. The trick play that, unfortunately, the Bears